All right. Welcome in, everyone, to our deep dive on Don't Believe Everything You Think by Joseph Nguyen.
Ooh, this is a good one.
Yeah, this book. It's about why we suffer, but it's like surprisingly funny. So
It is.
yeah, you ready to kind of unpack this?
I am.
Okay, cool.
And I think what's so interesting about Nguyen's approach is he says that suffering is not really from what happens to us, but it's more from our thinking about it.
So it's not like the traffic jam that's making us miserable.
Right.
It's our thoughts about being stuck in traffic.
Exactly.
I know, that's kind of hard to swallow, isn't it? Like, some things just are bad.
I think Nguyen would say that even our perception of bad is actually subjective.
Yeah.
Based on our own thinking. And,
Right.
we have these minds that are like wired for survival, right?
Yeah.
Always scanning for threats.
Sure.
Which, back in the day when we were dodging saber-toothed tigers, maybe that was super helpful.
Yeah, helpful then.
But now it kind of leads to us just overthinking and stressing about things that really are safe.
So, like, instead of running away from predators, we're creating these mental predators.
Yes, exactly.
In our own minds.
And then that overthinking leads to suffering.
Go.
You remember that example from the book, the two people in the coffee shop?
Oh, yeah.
One person's totally freaking out.
Yeah. And then the other one is, like, just chilling.
Totally relaxed, same coffee shop, totally different experiences.
Yeah.
And the difference, they're thinking.
Just their thinking.
So I want you to think about a time in your own life when maybe you were in a situation where you felt physically safe,
Okay.
but you were anxious.
Oh, like all the time.
Like lying in bed, you can't sleep because you're thinking about tomorrow's to-do list.
Ugh. Yeah, it's like my mind has a worry party
Yes.
the second I get into bed. But
Uh-huh.
okay, so I'm curious about something.
Yep.
Nguyen keeps saying thinking is the culprit.
Yeah.
But aren't thoughts just like things that happen? Like, can we really control them?
Yeah.
And if we did, wouldn't that make us like robots or something?
Well, I think that's where Nguyen makes a really important distinction between thoughts and thinking. Right.
Okay.
So he describes thoughts as neutral. They're kind of like ingredients, raw ingredients. They
Correct.
pop up, often uninvited.
Yeah.
But it's the thinking, it's the engaging, it's the judging that creates that emotional roller coaster.
Okay, so it's like I can't control the thought I hate my job
Yeah.
popping into my head,
Right.
but I can choose whether I go into that spiral of despair about it.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
Think about it this way. You're at home, you're feeling good,
Yeah.
relaxed, and then boom, the thought of work pops up. In that moment, you have a choice, right?
Okay.
You can just acknowledge the thought, let it pass,
Yeah.
or you can engage, you can start thinking about everything you dislike.
Yeah, and then before you know it, I'm stressed.
Stressed, the thought itself is neutral. It's the reaction to it.
So it's not eliminating thoughts, it's like changing our relationship with them.
Yes.
Like choosing which ingredients, I guess,
Yeah.
to cook with to make our emotions.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
That's really good. And I think that brings us to another really interesting point, this positive thinking trap.
Wait, so you're telling me all those affirmations, I'm doing the gratitude journal?
They might not be the answer.
I've been doing it all wrong.
I wouldn't say wrong, but Nguyen would argue that trying to like force positive thoughts is like putting a Band-Aid on like a deeper wound.
Because it's still coming from thinking.
Yes, because you're still thinking.
Right.
And, remember those principles he talks about?
Okay.
The universal mind,
Yeah.
universal consciousness, universal thought.
Yeah.
I know it sounds a little out there, but
Sure.
think about it this way.
Yeah.
Imagine there's a universal source of like well-being, peace, joy.
Yes.
Everything that we want, it's always there. Like a radio station,
I like that.
broadcasting pure bliss.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. Okay. So we're all tuned into this like bliss station.
Yes.
But something is like interfering with the signal.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
And that interference is our thinking
We're thinking.
instead of receiving like the peace and the joy.
We're trying to think ourselves into feeling it?
We're trying to manufacture it.
Oh, wow.
And that's exhausting, right?
Yeah.
And it's not sustainable.
Okay.
So Nguyen would say that our natural state
Hmm.
is joy, love, peace.
Okay.
Think about a baby, right?
Yeah.
A baby's not born stressed or anxious.
No.
It's like pure joy. It's
Okay.
only as we grow up that we start thinking ourselves out of that natural state.
So how do we get back to like no thinking?
Right.
I mean, is it even possible to like function without thinking?
That is the question, and that's what we're going to get into next time on part 2 of our deep dive.
Okay, awesome. I can't wait.
Yeah. But I think what's important to remember is that, suffering isn't inevitable. It's really a choice that we're making based on how much we're thinking.
Okay.
And so by simply becoming aware of our thinking, we can start to loosen its grip on us and open ourselves to a more peaceful, joyful experience.
Awesome. Love that.
Yeah.
I'm excited for next time.
Me too.
Okay, welcome back to our deep dive into Don't Believe Everything You Think. So we just finished talking about how our thinking can actually block us from experiencing joy and peace.
Right.
Which is, mind-blowing to me.
It is a radical concept.
It really is.
Especially, in this world where we're told to think more, plan more, do more.
Right. Constantly.
And Nguyen is saying, what if it's actually about letting go?
Okay, but how do we even begin to, let go?
Right.
I can't just tell my mind to turn off.
Yeah.
It's like this, hyperactive puppy wants to play fetch with every thought that pops up.
Exactly. And it's not about suppressing thoughts or trying to force our minds to be quiet.
Okay.
It's about shifting our relationship to them.
Okay.
So, he uses this analogy of a glass of water with debris in it. And when we're constantly stirring the water, the debris keeps swirling around, clouding our vision.
Yeah.
But when we let the glass just sit still, the debris settles and the water becomes clear.
So it's about creating that stillness in our minds.
Yes.
But how do we actually, do that?
Well, one of the key practices Nguyen emphasizes is just becoming aware of our thinking.
Okay.
Notice the thoughts that are creating, that stress, anxiety, unhappiness, but don't judge them. Don't push them away. Just observe them.
Okay, so almost be a curious observer of our own mental chatter.
Yes.
Instead of getting lost in the story.
You got it.
Just, look at that thought go.
Exactly. And you might be surprised by how much power that simple act has. No. Bringing awareness to the thinking, it starts to lose its grip on us.
Okay.
We're taking the spotlight off those negative thoughts.
Yeah.
Letting them fade into the background.
Okay, that makes sense. But, part of me still worries that if I stop thinking so much, I'll lose my motivation.
Right.
Won't I just become a couch potato?
That's a common concern, and it points to a misunderstanding of what no thinking really is.
Okay.
It's not about becoming passive or indifferent. It's about accessing, a different kind of energy, one that's more aligned with our true nature.
So it's we're tapping into that bliss station
Yes,
we're talking about.
Exactly. And when we're connected to that source, we actually become more effective, more creative, more inspired.
Interesting.
Nguyen would say that peak performance, those moments where we're in flow, are characterized by a lack of overthinking.
Yeah, when I'm writing and I'm just in the zone, or, having a deep conversation with someone.
Exactly.
I'm not overthinking in those moments. I'm just present.
Totally.
And it just flows.
And, athletes call it being in the zone.
Right.
The Japanese call it mushin, a state of no mind. It's when we get out of our own way that our true potential can come through.
So instead of thinking more to achieve our goals, we need to think less.
Right. It's so counterintuitive.
It is. It's like the opposite of how we're taught to approach success.
I know.
It's make your lists, overthink everything.
Yeah, analyze all the angles.
Yeah, but when we're doing that, we're just stuck in our heads. We're not actually doing anything.
Right. We're not moving forward.
This reminds me of Nguyen's point about the difference between goals that come from desperation and goals that are inspired.
Tell me more.
He says the desperate ones feel heavy.
Yeah.
Burdened, like you're trying to fill a void.
Yeah.
But the inspired goals have this lightness to them, a sense of joy.
And purpose.
Yeah.
And, I think when we're not overthinking, we're more open to receiving those universal thoughts, those nudges from our intuition. And that's what can guide us.
Okay, so how do we know if a goal is coming from inspiration versus desperation?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Is there a checklist?
It's more about tuning into your feeling.
Okay.
A desperate goal often feels constricted, like you're trying to force something to happen.
Yeah.
There's that fear or scarcity driving it.
Okay.
An inspired goal feels expansive, joyful, like it's pulling you toward it.
I like that. That makes sense. It's like a feeling.
Yeah.
And this reminds me of the story that Nguyen tells about asking his girlfriend why she loves him.
Oh, yes.
And she's just I don't know. I just do.
It's such a beautiful example of unconditional love.
Yeah.
which, is like the ultimate expression of no thinking. Right, because conditional love is all about, like, reasons and qualifications.
Yeah, it's transactional.
It's transactional, exactly.
Unconditional love just is.
That's is.
There's no checklist.
There's no thinking involved. It's just pure acceptance.
And maybe that's like the key to creating a life we love is approaching everything with that.
Ooh, I like that.
Unconditional acceptance. Not just our work, our relationships.
Yeah.
But even the challenging stuff.
The hard parts.
The setbacks. Like, can you imagine what would be possible if we can meet those challenges?
Yeah.
With that same openness that we, experience when we see a beautiful sunset.
Or hear a piece of music that moves you.
Exactly. It's powerful.
It is a powerful thought.
And those are some big questions that we're going to continue to unpack.
Absolutely.
In part 3 of our deep dive.
I'm excited.
We've talked about the problem of overthinking, but next we'll delve into some practical solutions. The good stuff, so stay tuned. Okay, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Don't Believe Everything You Think.
Yes.
We've been talking about how overthinking leads to suffering.
Right.
And how no thinking can open us up to joy and peace, inspired action, and all that good stuff.
The good stuff.
But let's be real. How do we actually apply this in our lives?
Yeah.
Like, bills don't pay themselves.
Right.
And deadlines, they don't just disappear.
You're right. And Nguyen isn't suggesting that we, quit our jobs and go meditate in a cave.
Okay.
He acknowledges that, life comes with responsibilities, challenges.
Yeah.
But he also reminds us that, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, which means we have access to, like, a deeper wisdom that can help us even when things are chaotic.
So it's not about, like, being perfectly thoughtless.
Right.
It's learning to navigate, like, all the ups and downs with more awareness and less resistance.
Exactly. It's recognizing that we have a choice in how we respond to our thoughts and circumstances. And, he says it's not the negative thoughts that are the problem. It's a belief in them.
Oh.
When we can see that it's just our thinking that's creating those negative feelings, it loses its power over us.
It's like realizing that the monster under the bed is just a pile of laundry.
Yes. I love that.
Still there, but not so scary.
Yeah, it's not so scary anymore. And sometimes those negative thoughts can actually be helpful.
Okay.
Like signposts pointing to maybe some limiting beliefs, like where we're misunderstanding something.
Instead of fearing them, we can learn from them.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
Turn them into opportunities for growth.
This reminds me of his point that there's no good or bad.
Right.
It's just our thinking that makes it so.
Yeah.
Like spilling your coffee, you might think that's a disaster.
Right.
But maybe it leads to, like, meeting someone new.
Or, a reminder to slow down.
Yeah. Or just get a new coffee.
Yeah. Exactly. It's all about perspective.
It is.
And he uses this analogy of a piano.
Yeah.
Okay? There are no wrong keys on a piano.
Yeah.
There are just different notes that create different sounds.
Depending on how you play them?
And it's the same with life experiences. They're neutral until we give them meaning with our thinking.
Okay, but if we're not supposed to overthink, how do we make decisions?
Ooh, good question.
Like, how do we know what to do?
That's where intuition comes in,
Okay.
That inner voice, that gut feeling that guides us toward what feels right.
But sometimes I feel like, we're taught to overthink.
Right.
Like, you have to weigh all the options, talk to everyone you know.
Consult everyone.
And then make a decision. So, like, following your intuition feels almost rebellious.
It can. And, Nguyen acknowledges that trusting your intuition can be scary because it leads us into the unknown.
Right.
But he also believes that that's where the magic happens.
When we step outside our comfort zones, when we dare to trust that inner wisdom, that's when we open ourselves up to, like, possibilities.
Creating that space for miracles.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? Especially when life feels, like, so full and busy.
Well, it starts with becoming aware of what we're consuming.
Okay.
Not just, like, food.
Okay.
But, like, mentally, too.
Okay, so maybe swap out doom scrolling for a walk in nature.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Trade that extra cup of coffee for a glass of water.
Okay.
It's about creating a non-thinking environment that supports peace, clarity,
That makes sense.
And that includes, being mindful of the people we surround ourselves with, the information we consume, and even like the spaces we're in.
Yeah.
He also talks about a morning routine.
Oh, yeah.
An activation ritual.
Yeah, to set the tone.
To set the tone for the day.
Yeah.
Because, how we start our day really influences how it unfolds.
If we start by like bombarding ourselves with information and to-do lists.
Yeah, then we're just setting ourselves up for stress.
Exactly. You're priming your mind for stress and overthinking.
Right.
But if we start with practices that like cultivate presence, peace, like meditation, journaling, or just like spending a few moments in quiet contemplation, we're more likely to stay in that state throughout the day.
So it's being intentional with like where we're putting our energy.
Yeah. Yes.
Instead of on worry and overthinking, we're focusing it on things that inspire us.
Yes, that feel good, that light you up.
Yeah, and it's almost like, decluttering our minds.
Yeah, creating space.
To make room for miracles.
Exactly. And even when we stumble, we fall back into those old patterns.
Yeah, we're human.
Yeah, we're human. And it's not a failure.
No.
It's just an opportunity to remember the truth, which is that, our thinking is not who we are.
Right.
Peace, joy, love are always available right there, just beneath the surface.
He's got to dap in.
It's about cultivating that awareness, to recognize when we're caught in a thought loop.
Yeah.
And then to gently redirect our attention back to the present moment.
Back to no thinking. It has been a fascinating exploration of how our thinking shapes our reality.
Yes.
And how by letting go of the need to overthink, we can create a more peaceful, joyful life.
For ourselves.
Yeah, more fulfilling life. I love it.
And remember, if you could create anything without fear or judgment, what would it be?
That's a great question.
It's a question worth pondering. And remember, don't believe everything you think.
Don't believe everything you think. Thanks for joining us, everyone.